It's just like you hear on the movies, that gurgling sound as you're going under. Is this it? Is this the way it's going to end? Is this the way we're going to die?
But I just remember locking eyes with them, and then it just became ultra real.
I'm going to die right here. My biggest fear, and it's going to take me.
And if that was my time, I was okay with it.
Why would you jump into something that is about to take somebody down? To this day, and that's been almost 4 years, not one day I don't think about that hunt. Not one day. My childhood, I'll still say, is one of the best times of my life. It was fun, it was hard. We were building a trout pond. We had one trout pond and decided to expand into another one. And we were working on that, and my dad had said something to the fact that, I don't feel good, you gotta help me get into the barn. So we got in there, I got him a little chair to sit on, and at 8 years old, I had no clue what was going on. And we sat in there for a while, and finally he said, you gotta get me up to the house. You know, that was back in the 60s. You didn't go to town in a pair of blue jeans or shorts or work clothes. I mean, they changed and went and got them in dress pants and a dress shirt and black shoes. And I remember that because we were on the porch, and we got him all dressed right there. My mom took him to the hospital, ended up he had a heart attack. And at that time, you had to be 12 years old to be able to go visit in the hospital. So my next oldest sister and I were not 12. And so we never got to see our dad again after that. It was tough. I mean, you're 8 years old and you lose your dad, and my mom decided to keep the farm going. And so it was a lot of hard labor from us children. My mom was, I guess I'd call it pretty strict, but I think she had to. She knew she had 4 kids, and if she didn't make us toe the line, we could have got out of control, and she knew that. She was the father figure too. I mean, she was the first one to take me deer hunting. I mean, I don't know how many moms, you know, are the first one to take their son deer hunting, but it was something I wanted to do, and she knew it. So she went out and bought herself a new gun and decided to go deer hunting with me. I've only got very, very few memories of my dad, and I cherish them, and I don't have much pictures because at that time there just wasn't a lot of photography happening. I've got a couple. Years after my dad passed away, my mom remarried, and they lived close to the Mississippi River. And so one time in the winter, they invited me to come ice fishing. So I'm like, yeah. My mom finally said, you know, you get your work done, you can go on Saturday. So, you know, unfortunately, we made a decision. We got a hold of some cigarettes that day and decided to smoke a bunch of them. And then their dad was supposed to come out and check on us in a few hours. So we had all these cigarette butts laying on the ice, and for whatever reason, I'm like, well, I'll pick them up. And instead of throwing them in the fire, thought, well, I'll just go take them out in the ice farther and throw them and get rid of them. You know, he'll never see them. Obviously, the farther I walked out into the Mississippi, the thinner the ice got, and all of a sudden I went down. I broke through. I popped back up, and then I got my feet on this log, and luckily the log went upwards towards the thicker ice. So I was able to keep my hands out and just kind of walk my way. And the other My two stepbrothers now, they both ran, and I was hollering for them to help, and I don't blame them now. At the time, as a young kid, I was like, why would you leave me there? But I was scared. I thought this is probably gonna be a bad situation. I'm probably gonna drown here. But I was able to get myself out and got up, and then we probably had about a mile walk if we decided to go back to the house. So we decided to just hang out by the fire, and their dad was supposed to be coming, and it was a cold day, but from that day on, I've had one fear and one fear only in life, and that's dying by drowning. Well, it's probably in the early 20s, it was where I first started seeing some magazine articles, books, maybe once in a while, a TV show that would show them hunting caribou, and I always wanted to go. And I would say, yeah, it's probably 20, 22 when I first started thinking about it. You see the scenery and the videos, and it just draws you. I like that open concept. I like the freedom, and now in this day and age, the no phones, the disconnect from people for a while, and just watching how life works in a whole different world than what we see it. My wife's cousin had passed away from cancer, and we were in southern Iowa for the funeral, and I get along really good with the other brother. We talked quite a bit, and we were driving around the day before day after the funeral and talking about how sad it was that he wanted to go with his son to Alaska on a ram hunt. And from the time he started talking about doing it and actually getting it booked, and he developed cancer and didn't last very long. So we were talking, and I said, I've never really had the desire to go on a ram hunt, but I said, I've always wanted to go caribou hunting. And he got under an underpass, and he pulled the truck over, and he parks it, and traffic's going by honking at us, and he goes, "Are you serious?" I said, "I'm dead serious." He goes, "It's been my dream too." I said, "Let's make this thing happen." And he knew of you, and I obviously knew you. And we came back, he said, "We're going back to the house, and we're gonna tell the wives we're going to Alaska." I'm like, wait a minute. I gotta have a little chance to talk to my wife about this first. He said, "There's no talking, we're gonna do it." My wife and his wife both kind of were like, you know what? If this is that important to you guys need to do it. Because we do not know if we will be here tomorrow, let alone 2 years from now. And so they both kind of said we should do it. And I think it was that evening we got on the phone and got a hold of you and tried seeing what some options were and moved forward. Did I sign up for something different than what I thought? Because the first 15, 20 miles coming in is not what I anticipated from the plane. But then as we got close into the base camp, kind of got the river going on the one side, more of the mountains and tundra on the other, I was like, okay, this is gonna be okay. All of a sudden the pilot would be like, "Hey, there's some caribou," or "There's a grizzly down there," and you start looking out. I remember just being in awe. Millions of acres in one chunk, undisturbed, natural habitat. You watch caribou running, you watch a grizzly bear running across the tundra looking for its next meal. It was everything and more than I had hoped it would be. But I'm here. I'm finally living my dream. This is what I've wanted to do. I want to see these animals in their habitat, in their wild. If I harvest a caribou, I don't care. It was about the experience of being there and seeing it was worth it just to be out in that tundra.
July 31st. Earliest I've ever hunted. Guided. Gonna do a little caribou hunting before sheep season rolls around. A little smoke in the air from some wildfires up at the head of, well, near the head of the Yukon. Nice breeze today, keep the bugs down, it's fairly warm. Got a caribou scattered around on the ridge tops here, getting up in the wind, staying away from the bugs. So there's a few around. They're not all jammed together. There's some decent sized bunches, but getting ready for another 2.5 month stint. They're running from the bugs. This is laying, it was really hot, sun was shining there for a while, so laid down in the tent out of the shade, heard the rocks rolling around. Pretty buggy, hot, got some cloud cover now, so it's not too bad.
I remember when we landed on that little rock runway across the little river where he camped. I mean, I'd watched the videos and that's exactly how I had perceived it. And I get out and I'm just, I mean, you can just go 360 around you and it's, to me, it was just beauty.
So how many years has it been? You figure you've been kind of wanting to do this?
32, 33 years. I think I was 21 when I dreamt of doing a caribou hunt. So it's been a long time in the making.
The strip's pretty gnarly, isn't it? I was even a little bit surprised when he lined up to land here. I was like, really?
Yeah, we were coming around the corner. I'm like, oh, it seemed kind of weird. We're going to travel across the stream, and nope, we're going right here.
Yeah.
At first I thought he was going to land on that ridge when we banked up there, and I'm like, I don't see no tent, I don't see no tent. Pretty soon he banked it on there, and I'm like, still don't see it. And all of a sudden here we are, and gravel runway, and at best gravel, rock.
Yeah. There ought to be. I did see one pretty good bull just up in that saddle there, actually right before you guys came in. Crew's here, the Wisconsin-Iowa crew. Don's pretty much my neighbor. Greg and Mike, what part of Iowa you guys live in?
Des Moines.
Des Moines, yeah, that's easy enough. pretty quiet here real shortly.
Don's pretty tired. He's probably already in bed.
Yeah, he's standing up, but I'm pretty sure I hear him snoring.
Yeah. I don't know who will snore the loudest tonight.
Well, I got a bunch of earplugs. They're $5 a plug. And if you don't, and every day you don't buy them, they double in price.
Morning of day one. Rain and wind.
You know, when you can see hundreds of caribou in a day, it doesn't matter if it's raining, you're cold, even if they're not close enough to even think of going after. It was fun watching them.
This weather clears up, we look out and hear these caribou come right along the ridge. We're gonna pack up quick, make a stalk down the valley. Okay, stay on him. He's the one to the left.
Far left?
Not far left. Here, step out into the clear. He'll stop. Here, don't move, don't move. Don't move. Okay, yep, get up, just get on the caribou. Third one from the back, third one from the left. Shoot him right in the shoulder. He's moving his head. He's moving his head. Wait. He's that wide one going away from us.
Yep.
Okay, wait for him to separate. We just don't want to shoot two. Okay, he's kind of stepping out in front. Yeah, now he's kind of looking towards us. They're gonna have to separate. He's kind of, yeah, we just don't want to shoot two. We don't want to move too much, so just stay on him. Okay, he's got his head down. There's a calf to his right.
Yep.
Okay, wait for him to turn broadside and that calf to clear. Wait for that calf to move. Go off safety.
Yep.
Wait. Drive one right. Reload. You missed. He's all alone. See that one kind of by himself, the farthest one away? That's the one you want. Take him right there. Reload. You hit him. Wait. Wait. Stay on him. Wait. Just stay on him. Yep. Drilled him.
Am I missing?
No, you're hitting him. I think he's still. Oh, wait. To get the aftermath on video, anyways. Oh, I got the audio on, but. All right, wait. Just stay on him. Hold it. Still facing to the left. Are you on him?
Yep.
Go ahead. I don't know if you hit him that time or not. There he's down. Day one, we got a caribou. Right out of camp. I didn't get it on video. It was too wet and there was too much going on.
Yeah.
We were chasing after these buggers, but
He took him pretty good.
yeah, he wasn't even. I don't know. Your first shot, I think, was good because he wasn't going very fast. That's for sure. Awesome, man. Put her there. You got to. That didn't take too long. This is what is it? 8 o'clock, day one. We kind of had to hurry out of breakfast and get her done. But yeah, there's a couple other good bulls, but I think this is a good way to do it. Just get one at a time.
Yeah.
And all those other ones are kind of scattered. Awesome, we're on the board. I'm gonna put this video camera away. It's too foggy anyways. Wet. Those back scratchers, that's pretty rare. In this herd, I think the genetics kind of disappear and you don't get those very often. That's a dandy. Awesome shovel.
Get down there. Yeah.
And he's close to camp. If we get one any closer than this, it'll almost be unsportsmanlike, but I don't think any of us would run away from it.
Thanks.
Ooh, he's got him half field dress for you.
He's got good mass on his beams there too.
Oh, feel that, isn't it? Oh, that is cool beam. Look at this.
Just kind of can see his spine there pretty good. They pretty much got him just like the deer, all they got. Oh yeah, look at how old that thing is.
Yeah.
That's probably like an 8-year-old caribou. Can just see from his spine, he's a little bit bony. That's a perfect caribou to take. Well, I told you guys the one guarantee in Alaska is you're gonna have some poor weather. It's actually not too bad right now, but 8 o'clock day one, we got a nice caribou. Greg and Mike Nelson and Don Johnson are here on a 3-on-1 adventure. And yeah, how did it go this morning here, Greg?
Quick.
That's a good way to describe it.
Had to scramble this morning.
Yep.
We were eating a little breakfast, and all of a sudden we noticed them out from the camp, and we weren't quite ready, and we were encouraged to hurry. So we got going, and Greg was first up, and we've waited a long time for this. This has been our hunt of a lifetime, and we've talked about it, and we're very thankful.
Yeah, it's not very often to get really even any, usually you don't get any back scratchers too much anymore. He's a real old caribou. Teeth are real wore down. You can kind of see he's a little bit bony along the spine, kind of a little bit thin in the neck. So I'd say he's probably just slightly declining from the peak. So got the biggest bull out of the herd. We were kind of lucky to do that. The camp is actually just right in those willows over there. So it was a bit of a mad dash, but it all came together.
Yep.
It worked out, so.
Well, very good. Well, again, Greg, congrats.
Thank you. Yep.
Greg spotted a grizzly bear and he was loping, and I said, that's kind of strange. And then he chased off a wolf. The grizzly bear is on the left, the wolf is on the right. Chased off a grizzly bear had a kill, looked like a caribou. Or I'm sorry, the wolf had a kill. The grizzly bear ran the wolf off and grabbed the kill and drug it away. Chased the wolf off. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I see that every day.
They get nervous, they like to pee like that. Well, that's kind of an exciting 5 minutes there. Caribou.
That's what coming here is about, though. Seeing things like stuff like you'd never see at home.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Have him run right up to you.
We got Greg's caribou loaded up. Piece of cake.
That's crazy.
Hanging meat.
Pretty neat picture of the hanging off there, isn't it? Pretty neat with the old antlers hanging off there. It's pretty awesome.
Morning of day 2. Anybody have any words of wisdom for us?
Go big or go home.
I knew Mike wouldn't let us down. I'm gonna get some caribou tenderloin for breakfast this morning. Don's allergic to everything else I know how to cook.
What can I say?
Yep, guilty.
Meat, potatoes, and beer. I'm so good with.
Yeah. Nothing. Cheese and beer.
Cheese,
The
beer.
Wisconsin staples. You can eat those. We're good to go. Well, is caribou any good?
Oh, it's excellent. Really good. He probably knows we're here, doesn't he?
Yeah. The wind was actually blowing from our camp to him this morning. Now it's not, it's switched from the northwest, but he's kind of getting out of Dodge, getting out of the valley. That's a different wolf than we saw yesterday. A grizzly bear came and chased a wolf off of a caribou kill. That wolf was a gray wolf. This one's pretty much snow white.
When I woke up that morning and I heard the rain and the wind, I questioned whether we should even go out hunting that day. But we had 2 caribou yet to get, and I knew that river was going to come up fast, and I knew we were probably going to have to move, and so that was going to cost us a day of hunting. And so I knew we were going to be taken down to at the most 3 days of hunting with 2 caribou still left to go.
And that morning I got up, I went behind the tent and I looked and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. The river that was somewhat narrow and there was rocks where you could just kind of walk your way through and you wouldn't get wet, all of a sudden was dark brown and it was wall to wall water rolling down that river.
And so I just assessed the situation in the morning and just figured, let's walk across, get up on the hill, see what we're dealing with. And always go downstream, angle downstream. The water's got a lot of power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So look ahead about 10 feet, 20 feet maybe. Little water in the boots, huh?
Look at mine.
Yep, just keep angling downstream. Angle downstream. Angle to your left a little, Don. You almost got her.
Stay upstream and kind of go sideways.
It's a little cool. That water's powerful, isn't it?
Strong in there, just wants to take your
Widen
feet
your
right off
feet
of
a
there.
little bit.
Here, hold this.
There, you want to hold it?
Day 3 starts off with a bang. We got 4 wet feet, 1 man down in the river. A few caribou around. It rained all night last night. That river came way up. It's probably came up 2.5 feet. But hopefully the ceiling's lifted. Hopefully we'll get some dry weather today. I doubt that river's crested by any stretch. Hopefully it'll crest during the day before we gotta go back.
Think we're gonna get back across that river? I'm like, and I told Mike, I'll bet you at least 6-8 times that day, I don't know how to swim. I said, I don't know. I said, I'm scared already. I said, I'm afraid we're not gonna get back across. Then what do we do?
We get up on the hill and I was watching this gravel bar down below us. There's this wide stretch of river there, and I kept an eye about every hour or so. I was watching how much of that gravel bar was disappearing, and I figured the river was rising in between 1 inch and 2 inches an hour. It was over 1 inch an hour. I figured 1.5 inches, 2 inches an hour. as a guide, you're always pushing your client as hard as you figure you dare, and there's a fine line there. You want to get your hunter an animal, but you also have to keep him safe. So it's the guide's job. The old adage is let your guide be your conscience, and that's kind of true. And in this hunt, I knew from the moment we woke up that we would be pushing that envelope.
Got a bunch of bulls up on this hillside. They were bedded for a long time. There was no way to approach them, but we're gonna sneak along this ridge. Wind's pretty well angling that way. Work in a little closer, see if we can make something happen.
And we spotted this band of bulls, and they were kind of working our way. And I'm like, all right, guys, if we're gonna make a play on any caribou today, now's our chance. And so they were roughly a mile away.
We started walking, and I remember Mike goes, "And what if we get one? What are we gonna do?" I'm like, "Cross that bridge when you get to it."
I said in my mind, it's like, okay, we need to be back across the river, on the campsite of the river, by noon.
But you're that close now, even though the Alaska experience is what I wanted. Now you've got them in your sights. I mean, you're close. You're within a mile of going after them or two. You go after them.
You know, going after the caribou when they're a mile away, that was fine, but by the time we got over there to where we thought they would be, they were gone. And once we got there, there's this little ridge, and we could see, you know, miles and miles, except for there's this little bowl. And I thought, well, it's only gonna take us 10, 15 minutes to get up over this lip, this little ridge, look down in that bowl, that's where the caribou gotta be. But there's no caribou there. Well, there's this another little ridge. And well, I know for certain the caribou gotta, at least in my mind I'm certain, caribou gotta be in that next bowl. So there's another 5, 10 minutes we decide to go up there. Well, we do get up on that ridge, and sure enough, the caribou are there. So we get loaded up and we start heading right for the caribou, and just then the caribou all get up and then they start feeding towards us. Well, so we figure, well, they're coming to us, let's just wait. There again, that cost us another 20 minutes, 30 minutes probably. So there again, that river comes up another inch.
Should be able to tell he's the biggest one. Wait for him to turn broadside. You can go off safety. So he's walking away from us now. If you like it, squeeze it real slow. Just wait. You can probably get a better one unless you're dead solid. Okay, wait. If it's absolutely dead perfect, squeeze it real slow. Reload. Use the third one from the right. Aim a little bit high. Oh, just a second.
He's coming to the front, ain't he?
Yeah, let's see. Second. Stay on him. Stay on him. He'll stop. Let me get the yardage and make sure. The rest of them are scooting out of dodge. Yeah, we won't shoot him laying down. I think he's...
Just let him experiment.
Yeah. Well, I thought you missed him, but the guide was wrong. Of course, this wind is pretty strong. Maybe that's why we didn't hear a report, but he didn't really lunge like he hit him. I think it was just a little...
walked off the same.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I just like, how could I miss it?
We'll see it in the video, but I thought for sure I saw like steam going out of him, and so I'm like, oh, it looked like you hit him maybe, and then, but he just didn't act like it. His head went down. He's done.
What a rush.
I think were you trying to like calm your breathing down there a little bit?
You know, and I got asthma, so by the time we got up this hill, I was huffing and puffing, and not exactly in the best of shape, and lesson well learned, but well worth the mile plus and walking through the water and having Greg fall in the creek.
All kinds of fun.
We had all kinds of fun today.
Yeah, he's a pretty good bull.
Yeah, he looks really nice. More impressive than me.
Double shovel, good tops, back scratchers.
Wow. Big, wide palmated. Couple back. Oh, yeah, beautiful rack. That's just about exactly what I would have dreamt out if I had to pick one out. So.
Yeah, he's got that white white on the neck. That's always pretty nice.
Yeah.
Makes a pretty mount. You got a fine caribou here, Don.
Hunt of my lifetime, something I've dreamt about for about 33 years. And so I want to thank Mike and Greg, and special thanks to Billy for getting us out here and surviving through these elements of rain and floods and high waters, and a special thanks to my wife for letting me understanding about coming here and letting me experience this hunt of a lifetime. So I'm just very blessed and very thankful.
I'm starting to grow impatient, trying not to let it show. You know, I want the guys to be able to take photos and, you know, celebrate. It's a happy moment, you know, but in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, let's butcher this sucker, throw it in our packs, let's get back to camp. The guys responded really well. I basically, I didn't mess around. I just started barking orders and they did good. I was slinging the knife, they were bagging, it went pretty fast.
We were ready to leave, and I remember saying something about, well, we should have a sandwich probably before we head back, and your comment was as serious as I've ever seen your face. Was, we don't have time. If you want something, you got a bottle of water and you got a bite-sized candy bar. I'd suggest you eat it now and let's go. And Mike turned around and he goes, we're screwed. That river's up. He knows it too.
And that was the first time where I just felt like I crossed that line. Like I knew in my mind, I knew those guys understood the severity of it at that moment. And I think that was maybe the first time that I knew the severity of it. And I'm like, everybody got everything. And I was, yep. And Don's like, well, I don't have my binoculars.
Then I had left my binoculars on top of the hill, so.
I'm like, well, where are they? Well, I think I laid them down when I shot the caribou. He's like, don't worry, we'll get them tomorrow. I'm like, we are not coming back here tomorrow. I said, see that willow bush over there? Open tundra, there's one willow bush. You guys get there as fast as you can. I'll go up, get your binoculars, and stay at that willow bush. I will meet you there. And I race up the hill. Thankfully, his binoculars were right there. I charged back down. We basically meet at the willow bush at the same time. And like I'll often do as a guide, it's not good practice in certain situations for a guide to be way ahead of the hunter. But in that situation, like when you're packing out, I like to stay ahead of the hunter because I know it's going to be killing them. That heavy load, the long pack back, you're wet, especially if you got rain gear on, restricting your legs, and you're walking through brush, and it's hard work, right? And so what I like to do is I like to stay well ahead of the hunter, not too far, but far enough to where their ego will drive them a little bit, where they kind of almost think they can catch me. Also, that gives me a time to pick a trail or find the path of least resistance. So if I go somewhere and it's really thick and brushy and I realize, okay, this is not the best path, that gives me time to back up and then find a new trail, and it doesn't, they don't have to go that extra distance, and B, it saves us time. And so I'm going ahead of these guys probably a few hundred yards. At one point, a wolverine comes right out in front of me. I had my video camera stuffed in my pack because at this point I am not focused on, I don't care about videoing anything. I know that river crossing is going to be super deep, so I have my video camera up in the top of my pack. But this wolverine comes out, he's like 20 yards away, he's got a rib bone or something. I didn't really pay a ton of attention, but he had this bone with some meat hanging on his mouth, and he just locks eyes with me and kind of stares at me for about 3-4 seconds and then takes off through the brush. I didn't even look back to mention it to those guys because like all it's gonna do is slow us down. And so I get to the river first, and it was bigger, angrier, louder than I possibly imagined. I mean, it was like deafening. It was so loud. I'm just like, this is gonna be a test. And I didn't want to freak those guys out, but just said a prayer. I just said, Lord, grant us safety, help me to make good decisions today.
When I got there, my gut just churned. I mean, I listened to that river roaring, watched the speed of everything going down there, how wide it was compared to what it was before.
Don's like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. He said it about 10 times, and I'm just like, man, what are our options? I said, basically, I'll go across first and just watch me, but I mean, we gotta at least try.
I was so scared to the point where I didn't know if I even wanted to try.
I knew the river was up 1.5 feet at least, probably closing in on 2 feet higher than it was that morning when we crossed it.
And I think I even made the comment, well, maybe we should just stay on this side of the river tonight. Maybe the rains will quit and the river will go down. And I think your comment was, we'll be dead by morning.
If we spend the night here, it's gonna be dicey. The ceiling was low, there was gonna be no flying at that point. And I was like, for a helicopter to get in here, that could take a day. And the weather been so bad, the visibility could be so poor, they maybe couldn't get it in here to get us at all.
But I mean, I at that point, we were scared. I mean, there was no doubt.
And so I told the guys before I left, one thing I've learned over the years is you gotta give guys simple instructions. If you give them 10 things to do, they'll remember none of them.
But I had watched when you went across that first part of the water, and I watched how high the water come, and I could still see through your crotch. So I estimated that, and I'm like, okay.
And then that last 10%, there was a deep cut where the main channel was, and there it was just slightly above my waist. And things changed. That 5-6 inches of depth of water makes a huge difference, because now instead of passing through your legs, it's got to pass through your pelvis area,
So I'm thinking your waist is probably my belly button. So that's a lot deeper than what that first part was. And Mike and I told Mike, I'm like, I can't swim. I don't know if I can do this.
I made it across just fine. Mike was next. Took him a while. We went one at a time. Mike made it across. Then I yelled for Greg to come across. Greg came across, walked to that island, which is, most of the way across, 80%, 90%. Now that island is basically shin deep. So there's a foot and a half of water on that island.
I remember the last thing I did is I looked down that stream, that river, and I looked and I'm like, is this my grave? I mean, it was like, is this where I'm gonna end up?
I knew he was scared, and the old adage, what I believe is true, what you fear, you create. And so I was pretty nervous of Don coming across. He did pretty well, he went slow, kind of coached him through it. He got to that island, and I just told Greg, you stay there, Don, you finish it out.
I was much more scared, I guess, than I was in the first half of that river. So mentally, I think I had checked out a little bit. I probably almost concluded that something bad was going to happen.
So I've got my pack off. I go about 20 yards downstream of where Don's going to cross.
I had my walking sticks, and I was using them, and you're trying to feel with your feet because there's all kinds of rocks in the river, and I thought I was doing good. I don't know, I had to be over halfway across, probably 2/3 of the way. So, I mean, I wasn't that far from hitting the shore again, but I was also in the deepest part of the river.
And so that fast river washes down small rocks. And so all that's there are big boulders. So it's just ripe for disaster. And he's right in the middle of it.
You got water up to your belly button trying to push you downstream, and you got a backpack, and I had the antlers on the back and some meat in my pack, and had my walking sticks, and when I set the left one down that one time, and I don't know if just the speed of the river snapped it or if I actually hit a rock or something in between the rock and the river, but it broke, and I did one of these, where you kind of wobbled. I caught myself,
and he kind of rights himself, and you could just see his eyes, and you could just picture his face, and he pulls up the one pole, and it's basically a perfect L.
And I could just remember you guys hollering, straight ahead, look straight ahead, one step in front of the other, you can do this, you can do this. And I'm like, yep, I can do this.
5 more steps and you've got it. I mean, he literally had 10, 15 feet at the most, and he was at the bank.
And got my balance and did the next one.
But he goes to take the next step in his muscle memory. He goes to use that pole.
And that walking stick was L-shaped, so there was nothing there to, you just did it instinctively.
And he goes down to use it, and that pole's not there, and he goes too far, and all of a sudden he rears himself back and boom, goes down, and he goes completely under. It's just like that fast. Don has disappeared. All of a sudden, Don pops up. His eyes were huge, and I just saw his mouth open, and he just gasped for air, and I can just see the water dripping down from his face.
And I was going down the river, and I could hear you talking about release your pack, release your pack. So I remember trying to get my hand and trying to find the strap, and I couldn't even find it. I couldn't feel it. I couldn't. And half the time my hand, the current would take it downstream, so I'd start over.
And at that moment, I could just sense that this was real.
And I'm like, I had my head above the water at that time, and I thought, okay, we're okay. And I don't think I was that scared at that point. And then all of a sudden I must have went into a little bit of a hole because I could feel the water coming up the backside, and I could just feel it rising. And when I got it under my ears and right to my chin, I took one big gulp of air, and I thought, I gotta try to hold this. And it's just like you hear on the movies, that gurgling sound as you're going under. And I thought, this is it. I can't hold my breath that long. I can't swim. I can't get my feet dug in. I can't let my pack go.
As he comes by, I reach out and I grab him.
And all of a sudden, something grabbed my shoulder, backpack, and I could feel something, and it was your hand coming under my head, trying to get me back up.
And he's up ahead of me, and I start to pull towards the shore, and slowly he starts moving down, and he's getting further down, and I'm pulling, and I'm making a little bit of headway pulling straight towards shore. And then all of a sudden he gets downstream of me, and then my headway was gone.
But that was enough to roll me kind of sideways. So then I started banging off some rocks, I remember that.
Well, now he's pivoting, and so are those caribou antlers on the back of his pack, which are, huge, and there's tons of drag. And that water was so powerful. It happened so fast, and Don pulled me right in with him. And so I had my heels in the gravel at that point, but it's just a split second later, we're right out into the current. We're like crappies just gasping for air on the surface. I mean, we're both right here. But I just remember locking eyes with him, and then it just became ultra real. And I just said, get your belt off, get your belt off.
My comment was, is this it? Is this the way it's gonna end? Is this the way we're gonna die? This is the end, ain't it?
I realized in that moment, it's like, okay, he's totally despondent, he's in shock. And I think that fear, that's when that fear just took over.
And at that point, I don't even know if I was really in the mode to try and save myself, because I was thinking about other people, my family. I was wondering why you were in the water. I was wondering where we were in the river, because I couldn't see. I mean, everything was looking up.
Just face to face looking at him, and in that moment, I realized that we had 20 yards downstream before all this wide stretch of water narrowed down. It was like a man-eating pool. It was real turbulent white water. I mean, we had a 60, 70 yard stretch of river, narrows down to about 20, and it makes a complete 90-degree corner, and it's a cut gravel bank, so there's nothing to grab onto. And at that moment, I recognized that with that heavy pack, if Don makes it to that corner, he's dead.
When I started going down the second time, I could hear the water coming up, could feel it, and when I got right under my ears and my chin, I took one big grasp of air, tried holding it, and and I couldn't. Once I was underwater, I took at least one gulp of water, and I'm thinking, this is it. I'm gonna die right here. My biggest fear, and it's gonna take me.
I just realized, all right, Billy, you've got a decision to make. You can either hang on or let go. And in that moment, I thought of my wife, I pictured her face, and I thought of my children. In that moment, I had this confidence, this peace, that I was as secure with God as I was ever going to be. And if that was my time, I was okay with it. And once those thoughts passed through my mind and I just accepted the consequence, they never came back. And from that moment on, it was my sole focus was to get Don out of the river. And my thought was, if Don dies, I die with him.
And when you finally got a good grasp my backpack strap and started pulling and got my head above water, I mean, I felt like a comfort came over me, like, okay, I got a chance now.
And I'm looking ahead to this turbulent bend in the river, this rapidous white water. And I'm just like, we cannot hit that. We have to get to shore before that comes. And it's less than 20 yards away. But I just knew it was like, we're gonna be in this white water, like just in seconds, and fractions of seconds. And all of a sudden, I felt gravel on my feet as I'm swimming. And so I just tread for all I'm worth in that gravel and then start to lean and pull Don as much as I can and lean towards shore and dig in that gravel. And it was like a couple of steps. Yeah, it wasn't much. I mean, it just happened so fast. And at the last second, I felt it was just like, I gotta go for it, because I didn't know where that lip, at that point, I didn't know where that lip was going into that deep water. And so I just dug for all I was worth. And at the last second, just kind of lunged with Don. I don't know if I knew that it was shallow enough, or I was hoping it was shallow enough, but we just kind of lunged forward and we land basically in the water. I mean, our faces go down in the water, because at this point we're somewhat out of water as we're digging into the gravel with our feet. And so we lunge down, we land in the water, we pull ourselves up, and I just remember Don kind of popping back up. I'm sure I looked the same way, but there's water dripping off of Don's face and he's catching his breath, and it's like at that moment I realized we're stable. Like, the current no longer has us. And Greg's watching this whole thing. I'm like, you all right, Greg? He's like, yeah, you know, and I'm like, just take your time, take your time. So I assume the position again, just in case Greg goes down. Greg did fine, makes it across. So we all huddled together. And I'm like, okay, guys, you know, we're all okay. And I suggested we say a prayer. Everybody was okay with it.
And in my head, first thing I'm thinking is, really? We're gonna pray now? We should have been praying on that side of the river. That was the first thing.
And Don's like, wait a minute, I'm just soaking wet. I'm like, I bet you are.
Well, I had one pair of dry clothes in my backpack in the wet pack.
And I want to take these pants off at least and get something dry on. I'm like, well, there's no sense in it. We got to cross more water on our way back to camp. And Don looked at me. He just glared into my eyes, man.
I'm like, no, we don't, no. But no, it's not a river, it's just standing water.
If he'd have still had his rifle, I'm not so sure he wouldn't have shot me at that moment. I was like, no, it was like a backwater slough. I figured it wouldn't be much over knee deep and there wasn't any current to it. And so he was okay with it. So we marched back to camp. I'm in the hunter's tent. Doesn't smell quite as bad as the guide's shack, but
it's pretty bad.
Well, what do you guys have to say for your experience thus far?
True Alaskan.
Getting free showers.
probably more of a shower than I needed.
But you took a shower and a bath.
Shower, bath,
I did as well.
and also donated a little bit. So.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, the Great Wilderness just inherited a 270.
Whip your butt.
With my scope, with my hand, I almost lost my bag.
Hey, we saved the antlers.
Yeah.
If you had to choose what went, the antlers or the rifle?
Oh, I can always get another rifle.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever get another antler.
You might have to go through this whole thing to get another one.
You gotta play your cards right on this one. You can
Don went swimming today. It was a bit dicey to say the least. Yeah, I haven't been filming much on this hunt because I'm starting to grow gills and I'm embarrassed about it, but it's been pretty much raining non-stop. We had an interesting creek crossing today, to say the least. So
Creek, river.
we're darn near getting to the nitty-gritty with as much rain as we're getting, as much as this river's coming up. We might have to evac a little early. We'll see. I get these guys something hot to drink, some freeze-dried. I go back in my tent, just kind of lay down, relax a little bit.
We were not going to tell the outfitters what had happened because we did this as a group, and there was no blame, there was no pointing the fingers at anybody.
And got on the satellite phone, called base camp, told them what happened, and more or less just kind of told them that, hey, I told them more than anything because I wanted them to realize that, hey, we need to move. This river is just too high, so we need to, there's no more hunting to be done here at this point. We're kind of in a survival situation, and I was worried about the river coming up so high that it would flood out our airstrip. And I mentioned the incident with Don and just told them, you know, basically whatever you can come and get us to do so.
And Matt comes out of the plane, and I think maybe Greg was ahead of me. And he's like, hey, Don, he said, I heard you got a caribou today. Yep. I said, I got everything I ever wanted. I mean, great caribou, I'm happy, life is good. And his next comment was, yeah, well, I heard you got a little swim in today too.
So we decided it'd probably be best just to take Don out now and just leave Mike and Greg. They didn't have time to move our camp that night.
I could tell in your voice and Matt's voice, like, I think we need to get you back, get you warmed up. We don't want hypothermia. I remember we took off that runway, and I seen the three of you guys out there, and my head just kept, you know, and I looked back at that river, and like, you know, that was just about my burial site. And I just, and yet I was like, you can look back as far as you want, but you can never move forward until you let the past go.
Last one from camp, got a grizzly. Just going out of sight. Right back in there is where we got Don's caribou. The wind switched out of the east, so I'm sure he's on it. That's a different bear than we saw a few days ago. That's a big mature bear there. So the rain has let up. It's still kind of just misting a little bit. We're not seeing much for caribou.
Well, day 5. Still, actually it's not raining anymore, it's now snowing. So the boots, are they wet, Mike?
They're wet. You're unlacing it and the water's coming off from your lace.
Yeah, they're just, there you can see the steam rolling out of that one. I actually can't dump water out of them. Yeah, there's a little bit of moisture built up there. We're probably what, maybe 40 degrees. And they are just a wee bit damp. But we're living the dream.
Yes, we are.
So we woke up again the next morning. The weather had lifted. It was still raining. That morning, by afternoon, it cleared off, and we were able to jump in the planes, move to a new camp where another guide was, where they had tagged out and they were waiting to fly out. So the plan was we'd just go in there and basically hijack that camp, start hunting. So we got in late at night, got settled in, woke up early the next morning. We had 1 day left to hunt. Hunting caribou on a time crunch can be really frustrating because then you do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do when caribou hunting. So we were hiking all over the place. Had to be super aggressive, obviously. It was late that evening and we saw this big group of caribou come by, and there were some good bulls in the back, and they go down in this big ravine, and we're all set up waiting for them to come out. And all these cows and calves and young bulls come, and we're waiting for the big bulls, and they just never came.
After 6 days of rain, finally got some blue skies, and we finally got some caribou.
And I was starting to think I was losing my mind, that maybe they weren't as big as I thought. And the rest of the herd passes by, and then sometime later, sure enough, those 4 or 5 big bulls that were in the back, they eventually showed up.
Squeeze it real slow. Reload. He's the one on the left. Hold a couple inches high.
Touching him.
Just take your time. The one on the left.
How many yards?
200.
I'm right on him, Dad.
There we ricochet. You want to use Greg's gun. Just wait. He's the one on the left.
Put the crosshairs right where you want it.
Yep, hold a little high. He's getting a little far out there. Just hold. Oh, drilled him. You smoked him running. You tatered him.
Got another gold in there?
Yeah, he's flopping, but I think he's done.
He got his money's worth on the shooting that day, but he got a really nice, for the last day, he got an exceptional caribou all the way around, but particularly for the last afternoon.
Took us 2 guns, but we got her done, and beautiful caribou. I'm really happy. It's obviously been a trip that we've planned for 20 years almost, and so we appreciate everything that everybody did to help us with this trip.
It was to pack that bull out of the mountains. Mike and Greg was great. He was all about packing as much as he can. It was a big physical test for him, and he really enjoyed that aspect of it. He took a bunch of the meat. Mike took a fair bit as well. So they went up on ahead, and I was getting my stuff loaded, and I watched those guys heading up on the hill towards camp. And I just realized, it's like, man, this is just one of those storybook adventures. This is one of the greatest hunts of my life. And the significance of it, I mean, it hadn't really sunk in at that point. I was just glad everybody was safe, and I was thinking about Don back at base camp. We get back to camp. I had a little bit of caribou meat from Don's caribou, and we started frying up his caribou, and we realized that we still had a 12-pack of beer that Don had brought with him at the beginning of the hunt. His idea was that it was divided into thirds, and you had 4 cans, so after each kill we'd each have a can of beer. Well, we didn't do much drinking. Didn't do any drinking at that point.
I was so proud that I was able to bring this 12-pack of Coors Light along to Alaska to have some drinks at the end of the hunt.
So the three of us figured, well, we're not, of course it's a law of the wilderness, you can't fly alcohol out, so we had to drink it. So
Yeah, so that was kind of sucked. I went through a lot of work to get beer up there and didn't even get to have one.
that afternoon, Don, Greg, and Mike, they were getting ready to fly out to town, and Don comes walking up to me and he's like, hey Billy, you know, I don't second guess anything that happened on this hunt. I've been sitting here reflecting on it the last few days here in base camp, and I don't second guess anything. I don't want you to second guess anything. He's like, this is a pivotal moment in my life. And he said, but there's only one problem I have with this whole entire hunt. And I'm like, you know, what is he gonna say? Here it comes. And it was almost like my heart stopped beating and the bottom dropped out of my stomach. He said, I can't believe, you and Greg, I'm okay with it, but I can't believe that you let Mike drink all my beer without sharing it with me. And so I felt a lot better, a lot more relaxed.
You know, you signed up to guide people, which is also taking care of them while they're in your possession, to a point. I don't know that it's your responsibility or your job to do what you did that day. Am I thankful? You better believe it. And there ain't a day that I don't thank you for that either, thinking I'm probably shouldn't have been there. But, so I probably felt worse for you than I did for myself or my family.
I'm 100% certain that Don gives me way too much credit for anything that I did that day. The way I see it, I'm the one that put Don in that position.
And there was no blame, and I will never blame you. But I really question why you did what you did.
The thing of it is that I look back on that had I let go of Don in that river, whether Don would have lived or whether Don would have died. If I'd have walked away from that scenario, having let go, that would have ruined my life.
I've thought of it a lot, and I would have never, and you would have never known it, but I would have had no remorse if you wouldn't have jumped in. I wouldn't have blamed you. Why would you? That river was no place for a man to try to go save somebody.
That guilt that I would have held on, that I was too big of a coward to hang on, I mean, it would have killed me. Probably might have been a slow death. I don't know, might have been a quick death. I don't know, but knowing me, knowing my conscience, I'd have never forgiven myself for that.
I've often talked, you know, Sandy and I was like, well, we should get Billy something, we should buy it. I don't know, how do you replace a life? There's nothing I could give you or buy you or send you that would bring back that day and make me feel and replace it. I can't. I mean, we've talked about it months on end, you know. We should go get him, you know, well, I can get you a gift certificate to go out to eat. Well, so what? That don't bring me back, you know? And so I don't know, I've struggled with it. But yet I feel like I owe you so much.
Nothing in nature has fear for an extended period of time. Nothing. If a sheep gets chased by a wolf, it runs away, and as soon as it feels like that danger has passed, it lays down and chews its cud, or it goes back to feeding again. We as humans, we don't do that. We'll dwell on things. We'll look back on the past. And we'll worry about things that may or may not happen in the future. Nothing in nature does that. I mean, I've spent way too much time, way too much of my life doing that. We will never have the impact on others, on the world, that we're supposed to have.
You know what? I came to Alaska and I won. I won. And not only did I win with Alaska, I won with fear. I won with, I mean, I look at things so differently now. I mean, things that used to just get me worked up and stressed out, I'm like, you know what? It could be worse. It could be so much worse. Be thankful for what you have, even if it's a bad day. You know, you don't like your job or you don't like what's happening, make adjustments. You got to overcome those fears. You have to.
Fear can be all-consuming, and it holds us back from growing, learning. And if we're not growing and learning, we're basically dying. And if we're dying, we have no life in us. If we have no life in us, we have nothing to offer others, to give to the world. And what I've discovered is that freedom and peace and ultimately life, it lives in the fear. Where the fear is, that's where we need to go. Because somewhere in that fear, we are going to find something. We're going to learn something about ourselves that is going to elevate us, improve us, and give us more life, give us more courage, give us more confidence. That's what makes you feel alive. When you go into the Alaskan wilderness, you know that there is a very good chance, maybe even a probability, that you are going to be up against something that you can't predict in any way, shape, or form, something that you've never experienced before. And there's a reason why people are in such awe of going on a hunting trip in Alaska, is because they're afraid of it. Every person that goes to Alaska, I don't care how many times you've done it, myself included, there is a certain element of fear. When I leave my kids and I'm going to be gone for 2 months, and I kiss them goodbye, and my wife, when I hold her, I recognize that there is a reasonable chance that that will be the last time I ever see them, I ever talk to them, and they ever see me. Hell yes, there is fear in me when I go. But why do I go? Because I know that there's going to be growth there. As long as I come back, my life will be better because of it. Life is like the ultimate adventure, in that you will constantly be tested, you will constantly be tried, and if you don't work through those strongholds in your life, you will never find happiness and peace and freedom. And so, just like Don, when we're face to face with our fears, if you want peace, the only way to get it is to go right into it.
Greg took a few more shots. Why don't you say how many shots you took, Greg? I want this on film.
Decline the answer.
Oh yeah, it was just a bad day for you the day I came down to hunt with you one day.
It's always
About
a bad day for you,
1988, 88, 89, Halloween day. And the
How do you remember this?
Because the stock market crashed and you lost a pile of money, and I come down there and you were so freaking ugly.
Months later, after we got home, Don had borrowed a bunch of my gear. He was coming over to give it back to me. This is in like October or whatever, after I had got home. He pulls into my driveway, and out steps his wife Sandy out of the passenger seat. And I remember kind of peering around the corner to make sure she didn't have a baseball bat with her. Hey, you're done. Your animal's on the ground. Pressure's on the old man now.
Yeah. Squeeze it real slow. Reload. He's the one on the left. Hold a couple inches high.
How many shots you took, Greg? I want this on film.
The one on the left.
How many yards?
200.
Right on him, Dad. I want this on film. Yep.
Reload.
After a switch of one gun, and took us 2 guns, but we got her done, and beautiful caribou. I'm really happy.
For more information on other DVDs, books, and modern day mountain man apparel, log on to BillyMolesAdventures.com. Here you'll also find information on Alaskan hunting opportunities with Billy for Dall sheep, caribou, moose, brown bear, grizzly bear, as well as white-tailed deer hunting in Wisconsin. Much of Billy's off-season is devoted to public speaking. He travels across the country sharing his knowledge and passion for the wilderness at corporate events, schools, conservation organizations, wild game dinners, Christian outreach events, and much more. Billy is a master storyteller. Attendees are sure to be entertained, educated, and inspired. Log on or call for more information.